I love wide-angle lenses. They make me feel immersed in the environment and help me create images that feel experiential. But when you try them for the first time, your photos can feel distorted, busy, and hard to control. Every mistake is magnified and you can't just blur it away with bokeh. But here's the payoff. When you get it right, wide angles deliver some of the most dramatic and rewarding shots that you can take. I'm Brenda Bergreen, and today, as part of our How to Shoot series, we're focusing on the wide angle lenses, how they compare to other focal lengths, which wide options are worth considering, and my best practical tips to help you shoot with confidence. So first, why wide angle? Wide angle lenses are usually anything wider than 35 millimeters. So think 24, 20, or zooms like the 16 to 35. They're amazing for landscapes, travel, and architecture because they capture so much of the scene. I still remember the first time I shot a mountain lake at 16 millimeters. It felt like I could pull the whole world into my frame. They let you work in tight spaces. Think small rooms, crowded markets, or wedding prep areas. At weddings, wide angles have saved me more times than I can count, whether it's a cramped getting ready room or a packed dance floor. And they add drama by exaggerating perspective. Your foreground looks bigger, pulling the viewer into the frame. The downside? Distortion, cluttered edges, and warped horizons if you're not intentional. So let's talk about choosing a wide angle lens because there are a lot of options out there. I will be talking about lenses for full frame cameras, so if you're on a crop sensor, you'll want to make the conversion. First up, 16 to 35 zooms. These are the classic wide zooms. They're versatile for landscapes, travel, or architecture because you can go ultra wide at 16 and then tighten it up to 35 without switching lenses. The trade-off is that they're bigger and heavier. But our 16 to 35 has been a favorite lens for pretty much ever. It's the one lens we've used for weddings, adventure shoots, and everything in between. Be sure to check out my video on how to shoot adventure photography with a 16 to 35. Next up is 24 primes. I don't have one right now, but it's definitely a favorite for travel and street photography. It's wide enough to feel immersive, but not so wide that it gets unmanageable. Faster apertures like f1.4 or 1.8 also make it better in low light. 28 and 35 millimeter primes are a little tighter and easier to use. A 35 is often considered the most natural wide for storytelling. It's wide, but not in your face. Then there's the ultra wides like 14 millimeter to 20 millimeter. These are specialty lenses, great for dramatic landscapes, astrophotography, or interiors, but much harder to master in everyday shooting. I actually made a full video comparing the 24, 28, and 35 millimeter battle of the wide primes. So if you're deciding between those, check it out for side-by-side examples. I also have the 24 to 70 here, which is great because it includes the wide focal lengths like 24 and 35 millimeters, but also allows you to shoot more telephoto at 70 millimeters. Now, let's compare how wide angle lenses behave in practice because not all wides look or feel the same. So 16 versus 24. At 16, perspective gets exaggerated. Your foreground objects look huge, lines stretch, and you can create dramatic depth. But it's also easy to make things look distorted if you're not careful. At 24, you can still get that immersive wide feel, but with a little more control and more natural look. If you want to see me go deeper on the 24, I've got a dedicated video for that I'll link below. Now, to compare the 24 to the 35, at 24, you're pulling in a lot of environment, which is amazing for landscapes or travel, but it can get busy in tighter spaces. A 35 still feels wide, but it's calmer and more storytelling driven. That's why the 35 is such a favorite for weddings and everyday life. I actually made a whole video on shooting with the 35 and it's one of the most popular on my channel. So if you haven't seen it yet, make sure you check it out. And since people often ask, should I get a 35 or a 50? Here's the difference. A 35 shows more environment and context, while 50 simplifies the frame and gives you stronger subject separation. Both are classics. It just depends whether you want to highlight the story around your subject or isolate them more. I'll link my 50 video below as well if you're curious about that comparison. Let's talk next about zooms versus primes. A lens like the 16 to 35 is flexible. You can go ultra wide at 16, then zoom tighter to 35 without switching glass. But primes like the 24 or the 35 are much lighter, often sharper, and much faster in low light. Now, what about wide angle versus the 24 to 70? The classic 24 to 70 zoom. It does cover some wide focal lengths, but the look is different. A 16 to 35 will exaggerate the perspective in a way that the 24 to 70 doesn't. The advantage to the 24 to 70 is that you can shoot at those tighter focal lengths without swapping glass. Finally, let's talk for a second about wides versus telephotos. With a telephoto, you isolate your subject. With a wide, you do the opposite. You show the person in the context of a place. That's why wides can be tricky. You have to be intentional about what to include in your frame because everything in the environment becomes part of the story. Telephoto lenses also compress the background. You might think you want the wide to capture the vast mountains, but sometimes the telephoto is where it's at. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because I'll be discussing how to shoot with a telephoto lens in an upcoming video. Let's get into some practical tips for shooting with a wide angle lens. Number one is always going to be watch your edges. Distortion is going to be strongest at the edges of your frame. That means if you place people out there, their faces or bodies can stretch in unflattering and just weird ways. To avoid this, keep people closer to the center of your frame and use the edges for scenery, lines, or less critical elements. This is the easiest tip to master that will keep your photos from being awkward. Number two, keep your horizons straight. Even a small tilt with a wide angle lens can make your photo look warped. Skies, mountains, or especially buildings suddenly look like they're falling over. So take an extra second to level your horizon. And if you're shooting architecture, pay attention to the vertical lines too. Fixing tilted horizon lines in post-production is one of the most annoying things to do. Back when we had to do it manually anyway. And even now that editing software can fix it for you doesn't mean that it should have to. Wide angles are unforgiving when it comes to crooked horizons, so take the extra second to get it right in camera. Number three, get close. Wide angles exaggerate perspective, so the closer you get, the more powerful the effect can be. A small rock in the foreground can look huge at 60 millimeters if you step right up to it. This makes your subject pop and adds drama to the scene. Don't be afraid to move your feet and work the foreground. Using a wide doesn't mean you need to capture the whole scene. Sometimes it means you need to get close to the action so that you can truly capture the moment. Trust me, this was hard for me in the beginning. I felt like I was being intrusive by getting so close with a wide lens, but it's actually less awkward to be present than to be a fly on the wall. Number four, use those leading lines. Roads, rivers, trails, fences, anything that naturally pulls the eye. They can become a powerful composition tool, especially with the wide lens. They guide your viewer through the image, creating flow and making the wide frame feel intentional instead of chaotic. It helps to start to learn to notice these types of things in your daily life. Now, if Mark and I are out on a drive or a hike, we're both pretty likely to comment on the beautiful S-curve of the road or, hey, look at that nice twist of the trail. We can't see it without noticing it anymore, making it a habit that we can utilize in our photography. So number five is to think in layers. The best wide angle photos usually have three parts: a strong foreground, your subject, and the background. Without that layering, wide shots can feel empty or flat. With layers, they feel deep and immersive. For example, shoot through the flowers in the foreground or place your subject mid-frame and let the mountains or city skyline anchor the background. This tip was the biggest thing that I needed to learn when I was initially struggling to figure out how to shoot with wide angle lenses. If I feel lost in the frame, I just start to look for something in the foreground to anchor me, something in the middle to act as my subject, and then let the background do its magic of making me feel like I am there. And here's a bonus tip: slow down and compose carefully. Wide angles capture everything. So unlike a telephoto where you can blur distractions away, you have to edit with your feet and your framing. Be intentional about what you include and what you leave out. So to recap, wide angle lenses are immersive, dramatic, and powerful, but they also magnify your mistakes. With the right framing, composition, and awareness, they can create some of the most rewarding photos that you'll ever take. In the description, you'll find links to my favorite wide-angle lenses, from the versatile zooms like the 16-35 to prime lenses like the 35 and 24. Using these links is a great way to support the channel while finding the right lens for you. Make sure you're subscribed for more in this series, and I'll see you in the next How to Shoot video.